Every Borg drone you've ever seen on screen looked the same. Pale gray skin, black exoskeleton, one ocular implant glowing red. But that's not how the Borg actually work. The Collective has been redesigning itself for thousands of years, building specialized variants for every situation it encounters. There are drones built for combat, drones built for surgery, drones built specifically to hunt other Borg. Today, I'm breaking down every type of Borg variant in Star Trek and exactly what each one was designed to do. Starting with the one that started everything, the standard worker drone. Here's what makes the standard drone the most terrifying variant in the Collective. It's not specialized. It's universal. A standard drone can repair a hull breach, perform surgery on a captured species, navigate a vessel, fight in close quarters, and assimilate new life forms, all without changing a single component. The reason most drones look identical is that the standard design is the most efficient general-purpose unit in the galaxy. The Borg figured out the optimal humanoid template thousands of years ago and stopped redesigning it. Every standard drone has the same cortical implant, the same assimilation tubules, the same neural transceiver. They are interchangeable parts. If one fails, another fits the slot exactly. This is why the Collective doesn't fear casualties. Casualties are a logistics problem, not a tragedy. But here's where the scale becomes genuinely horrifying. There are trillions of standard drones in the Collective. Trillions. Every assimilated species since the Borg's origin contributes to that number. Humans, Klingons, Bolians, Cardassians, Vulcans, Romulans, every one of them has at least one drone in active service somewhere in the Delta Quadrant. The Borg don't lose drones, they redistribute them. When a cube is destroyed, the standard drones inside aren't all dead. The ones who survive the initial blast are recovered, repaired if possible, and reassigned to new ships. The Collective treats individual drones the way a server farm treats individual processors. Functionally, none of them matter. The system matters. The Federation has destroyed Borg cubes. The Federation has never inconvenienced the Collective. Then there's the Borg Queen. And this is where everything gets complicated. The Queen is not a leader. She's an interface. The Collective is a hive mind, but a hive mind that operates across galactic distances has problems with coherent decision-making at the speed Starfleet operates. The Queen is the personification of the central voice the rest of the Collective listens to. She gives the swarm a focal point. When you talk to the Queen, you're not talking to a person. You're talking to a representational layer the Collective generates in order to communicate with individuals. Captain Picard called her the Borg's central consciousness. Janeway called her the most dangerous adversary in the quadrant. Both were right. The Queen is what happens when a hive mind needs to lie. She is the face the Collective puts on so that lower beings can negotiate with it on terms they understand. Here's the thing about the Queen. There's not just one. The original Queen who appeared in First Contact was destroyed when the Enterprise E vented coolant into engineering. But the Queen reappeared in Voyager seasons later, identical in appearance, with full memories of her previous interactions with Picard and Janeway. The explanation the Star Trek production team eventually settled on is that the Queen is a body the Collective grows on demand from a stored template. The consciousness that animates her is downloaded from the central hive memory. When a Queen body dies, another is grown, and the same consciousness wakes up inside it. Functionally, the Queen is immortal. Killing her is a delay, not a victory. The Collective has been doing this for thousands of years. Every Queen Picard or Janeway met was the same Queen, dressed in a freshly grown body, pretending to be defeated for a tactical reason. Then there's the tactical drone, which is a specialized combat unit deployed when the Collective expects significant resistance. Tactical drones are visibly different from standard drones. Larger frame, heavier armor plating, weaponized arms with built-in directed energy emitters. The tactical drone first appeared in Voyager during the Hirogen arc and represented a meaningful escalation in Borg combat doctrine. Up until that point, the Collective had relied on overwhelming numbers of standard drones. The tactical variant was an admission that some opponents required actual specialization to defeat. The Hirogen, the Species 8472 incursion, and the Federation's continued resistance all forced the Borg to start building dedicated soldiers. Before this point, the Borg didn't have soldiers. They had workers. The fact that the Collective started manufacturing dedicated combat units is itself a signal that something had gone wrong with their previous strategy. But here's where it gets worse. The tactical drone is harder to kill than the standard drone. The armor plating defeats a single phaser blast at most settings. The integrated weapon arms allow the unit to fire while moving, eliminating the brief vulnerability standard drones have when they raise an assimilation tubule to attack. Tactical drones operate in pairs or trios, with overlapping fields of fire designed to flank any boarding party. When you see a tactical drone, you know the Collective has assigned a high priority to whatever it's trying to take. Tactical drones don't get deployed for low-value assimilations. They're sent in to capture specific people, specific technologies, or specific ships. If you encounter a tactical drone, you are not a target of opportunity, you are a target. Then there's the Borg Queen's children, the variant introduced in the film First Contact. These are not standard drones. They're modified humans with cybernetic enhancements distributed throughout their nervous systems, but without the full external Borg appearance. The Queen used a small group of these to attempt to seduce Data and infiltrate the Enterprise crew. The variant exists because the Collective recognized that not every assimilation requires immediate visible conversion. A drone that still looks human can move through Federation society undetected, gathering intelligence, identifying targets, and eventually assimilating high-value individuals from inside the system. The Queen's children are the Collective's attempt at espionage. It only happened once on screen, but the implications are massive. The Borg can hide, the Borg can blend in, and the Federation has no reliable way to detect a Queen's child until they activate. Here's where it gets truly unsettling. The children of the Borg, a separate variant that appeared in Voyager, are not the same thing as the Queen's children. The children of the Borg are infants and adolescents who were assimilated at birth or in early childhood. The Collective grows them inside maturation chambers on Borg vessels and uses them as a labor pool. Children process new assimilations. They sort and categorize stolen data. They perform repetitive tasks that don't require an adult drone's full processing capacity. When Voyager liberated 4 Borg children in the episode Collective, audiences saw for the first time what the Collective does with the youngest victims of assimilation. The answer is that it warehouses them and uses them as biological storage media. The children of the Borg variant exists because the Collective doesn't believe in childhood. It believes in component life cycles. A 6-year-old assimilated drone is just a smaller processor with a longer expected operational life. Then there's the Cooperative. This is the variant most people forget exists. A Cooperative is a group of liberated Borg drones who have been disconnected from the central Collective, but who chose to maintain a localized hive mind among themselves. The first Cooperative appeared in the Next Generation episode where Hugh, the disconnected drone the Enterprise had rescued, returned with a small group of similarly liberated drones. The Cooperative variant is distinct because it represents the first canonical proof that Borg can survive without the Queen. They retain their implants, they retain their telepathic link, they simply choose what to do with it. The Federation has mostly avoided studying the Cooperative because the implications are uncomfortable. If liberated drones can form their own hive mind, then the Collective is not the only possible outcome of Borg technology. The Collective is just the worst one. But here's where it gets truly strange. The Borg Cooperative, led by Riley Fraser in Voyager, was different from Hugh's Cooperative. Riley's group consisted of drones from multiple species who had been disconnected from the Collective by an electromagnetic event and had spent years rebuilding their lives on a planet. They were stable, they were peaceful, and they were terrifying for a completely different reason. They wanted Janeway to use her ship to forcibly link them back into a hive mind because the partial telepathic connection they retained was driving them insane. The Cooperative variant proved that Borg implants don't just enable hive mind connection, they require it. A liberated drone is not simply a free person with extra hardware. They're an addict with the substance removed. Some of them never recover. Some of them beg to be assimilated again. The Collective is not just an external threat. For some of its victims, it's the only way they will ever feel whole. Here's the thing about 7 of 9 and the path she opened. 7 was assimilated at age 6 and spent 18 years inside the Collective before being severed during her time on Voyager. Her recovery process took years and was never fully complete. But in the process, Starfleet learned something the Federation had never known. Borg can be rehabilitated. The implants can be partially removed. The neural pathways can be retrained. The assimilation is reversible if you have the time, the medical technology, and the patient cooperation. 7 of 9 is the variant the Collective never anticipated. A former drone who became fully autonomous, fully Federation, while retaining enough Borg knowledge to be the most valuable intelligence asset Starfleet ever produced. Every later Borg-related plot in Trek depends on 7 existing. Without her, the Federation has no insider knowledge of the Collective. With her, the Federation has the equivalent of a defected nuclear engineer who knows where every silo is buried. Then there's Locutus, who deserves a category of his own. Locutus was Captain Picard, assimilated by the Borg at the Battle of Wolf 359 and made into the Collective's voice for the invasion of Earth. The Locutus variant is unique because it's the only known instance of the Collective creating a single drone designed to lead other species. The Borg don't lead, they absorb. But Locutus was a translator, an ambassador, a tactical commander who could speak to the Federation in human terms while running the assimilation campaign. Locutus killed 39 Starfleet ships. He killed 11,000 Starfleet personnel. He almost ended the Federation, and the Collective grew him in less than a day because they wanted to demonstrate that they could turn the Federation's most respected officer into a weapon pointed at his own home. When Picard was rescued, the Borg learned a different lesson. They learned that creating Locutus had given Picard direct access to the Collective's communication architecture, which the Federation later used to defeat the Borg's invasion. The Collective never made another Locutus. Then there's the Jurati Borg, introduced in Star Trek Picard. This is a completely new variant created when Dr. Agnes Jurati merged with a damaged Borg Queen and created what she called a benevolent collective. The Jurati Borg join voluntarily. They retain their individual personalities. They use the hive mind for cooperative defense and shared knowledge, but disconnect from it whenever they choose. The Jurati Borg are a philosophical answer to the original Collective. They exist to prove that Borg technology can be used to enhance free beings rather than absorb them. By the events of Picard Season 3, the Jurati Borg had earned full Federation membership and were allies during the final Borg crisis. The variant exists as the franchise's answer to the question of whether the Borg are intrinsically evil or just a particular implementation of a more general technology. The answer Star Trek finally gave is that the Borg are a choice, not a destiny. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. The Royal Protocol drones introduced in Picard Season 3 are the most disturbing Borg variant ever shown on screen. The original Borg Queen, dying and isolated in the wreckage of her former empire, infected a generation of Starfleet personnel with a transporter-based assimilation pathogen. The Royal Protocol drones are the result. They look fully human. They function fully human until activation. Their implants are distributed across the bloodstream and the central nervous system at a microscopic level, completely invisible to standard medical scans. When the Queen activated them, she did so through a subspace signal that reached every Federation officer who had been transported within a specific window. Most of the entire Starfleet fleet became Royal Protocol drones simultaneously. Children, officers, engineers, captains. The Queen didn't need to assimilate them physically. She had already done it digitally years earlier. They just didn't know. Here's where it gets worse. The Royal Protocol variant is the proof that the Collective never gives up. A dying Queen, isolated, defeated, with no resources, still managed to engineer the largest single assimilation event in galactic history. The Borg's defining trait is not their technology. It's their patience. They will wait centuries to deploy a single weapon if the weapon is the right one. The Federation defeated the Royal Protocol drones only because Picard's son, Jack, contained the genetic component the Queen needed, and one specific technical exploit allowed Picard to disable the signal at its source. The win was so narrow, it almost wasn't a win. If Picard had not had a son, if Jack had not survived to adulthood, if the Titan had not been the specific ship that intercepted the signal, the Federation would have lost. Trillions assimilated. The end. Then there's the Unimatrix Zero variant, which is unique because it's not a physical variant at all. Unimatrix Zero was a mental space, a virtual environment, that approximately 1 in a million drones could access during their regeneration cycles. Inside Unimatrix Zero, those drones experienced individuality, could form relationships, could pursue interests. The Collective considered Unimatrix Zero a defect for years, before it became aware enough to try to eliminate it. The drones who could enter Unimatrix Zero were essentially leading double lives. By day, mindless components of the swarm. By night, fully realized individuals living in a shared dream. When the Collective discovered the existence of Unimatrix Zero, the Borg launched a hunt across the entire Collective to identify and destroy every drone who could access it. Voyager helped these drones revolt and create a real-world resistance movement. The Unimatrix Zero variant proves something the Collective doesn't want known. Some drones never lost their humanity, they just hid it from the swarm. The Collective is not as total as it looks. It has been infiltrated from the inside for as long as it has existed. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. There are variants the Collective uses that have only been hinted at in canon, never fully explored. Borg constructs that exist purely in computer networks, capable of assimilating data the way a physical drone assimilates flesh. Borg infiltrators that have been physically disguised as starships, drifting through Federation space looking like derelict vessels until they activate. Borg colonies on planets too irradiated for standard humanoid life, where adapted variants survive in environments no Starfleet officer could enter. The Collective has been alive for tens of thousands of years. Every variant we've seen in Star Trek represents only the encounters we know about. The Federation has touched maybe 1% of the Collective's actual presence in the galaxy. Whatever else exists out there, in the parts of the Delta Quadrant nobody has surveyed, is still operating, still adapting, still building new variants for situations the Federation hasn't imagined yet. The drones we've seen are not the drones that will defeat us. The Collective's true strength is that it never stops redesigning itself. Every encounter teaches it. Every defeat refines it. Every new species it assimilates contributes a new approach to a problem the Collective hadn't yet considered. The variants exist because the Borg have spent millennia answering one question with infinite variations. What is the most efficient way to absorb everything? Every drone you've ever seen on screen is an attempted answer, and the Collective has not yet decided which answer is final. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.